With Nigeria's banking sector once again in the spotlight, stakeholders will meet again before 2023 runs out to discuss pressing issues. Former Central Bank of Governor of Nigeria, Sanusi Lamido Sanusi, CON, would headline the Bank Directors Association of Nigeria Summit next month. The summit will focus on navigating the balance between regulation and compliance. Now, Nigeria's economy grew by 2.54% year-on-year in real terms in the third quarter of 2023, and that was higher than the 2.51% growth in the second quarter of this year and 2.25% growth in the corresponding quarter of 2022. Joining me now to break down the numbers is Samson Owolabi. He's the Associate Research and Portfolio Management at Zedcrest Wealth, which is a part of the Zedcrest Group. Good morning. Great to have you.
Good morning.
Let's start. What do you make of Cardoso's speech at the CIBN dinner?
Okay, well,
give me your takeaway.
Well, so concerning the speech, I think is a more balanced speech, and he was quite explicit about what the CBN is looking forward to do, and also their plans for the economy. And when you look at the fact that he also stated some things that has happened in the past concerning how they have been the policies that have been implemented by the previous administration has had a particular effect on the economy. So it was more like saying that okay, there's going to be a change in some of these policies, and they're going to be looking forward to doing some more let's say orthodox policies just to make the economy to be more better. And also he stated the fact that they are looking at increasing the GDP and making it be at $1.0 trillion US, and that is quite ambitious, but it's something that I believe that we can still get to over time.
Well, we've seen orthodox policies of the central bank, and we've seen unorthodox policies of the central bank. So a return to orthodox policy was what will be different.
Well,
we've seen unorthodox policies.
Yeah.
And people will say, well, that was before Godwin Emefiele. So he came with unorthodox policies. Now we're reverting back to orthodox policy, monetary policy for the central bank. So I'm trying to find out exactly what will be different.
So the major thing about it is that, at times I have this particular view that policies are always going to be effective if they are being implemented well. Either orthodox or unorthodox, the implementation is the major factor. The process. When they implemented this policy, in Q1 2023, we saw how cash crunch affected the economy significantly, and it was based on poor implementation and the way everybody just pushed it at us. But assuming that we have a particular way of a step-by-step process of implementing these policies and making sure that there's a particular process in which that these policies are being implemented, and also how there's adequate communication for people, it would have been a very good thing. But for me, I just think that from one of the things that they have been doing over time, I still see some changes over time, but I still believe that we really need to look at the process of implementing this policy.
Out of everything that Cardoso said, what exactly was entirely new for you?
Well, for what he said concerning that, I think some of the things I will see that is entirely new is the fact that, he stated the fact that some of the direct policies that they have been doing for, direct intervention, they will not do that again. And also he made mention of the fact that, they're trying to they're trying to make sure that, the automobiles, the rates on the automobiles and also the short-term interest rates, they are working towards that. From what we've seen over time, they're working on that just to boost it and to make it attractive for investors. This is something that is pertinent for the economy, because we are going to be seeing at least it's going to improve foreign direct investment into the economy. So those things are major factors. And also what he said concerning banks is a major thing that we might be seeing in some mergers going forward right now. So those are the major things that I believe that they are something different.
Interesting. But if we move forward on the upcoming BDN summit, which we're looking at the balance between regulation and compliance. So if you look at this, within that context, how do you see the quest to recapitalize the banks playing out? If you look at regulation on one hand and then compliance with the need whether to recapitalize or whether you recapitalize or you consolidate. They are twins, in a manner of speaking. They are flip side of the same coin, in a manner of speaking.
Okay, well, concerning that, what I would just look at that is that, when they talk about, recapitalize and also try to do some changes there, when you look at the beginning of the year, when the banking sector crisis was happening, you can see how it affected some major economies in the world, and you can see how the Nigerian banking sector was kind of shielded away from it. Although we have several like different drivers for those markets. But what I would just say is that even from the stress test that they did, this concluded that the banking sector is in a range of from mild to moderate. So from that stretches, it's still showing that the banking sector is still quite buoyant and positive. It can take some shocks and can take some policy changes in the economy. However, if they still want to go ahead with the policy of recapitalization, it's still a good thing. We have a lot of competition in the markets right now. It's going to put us in a place where we'll see the banks that have this kind of a strong standing in the economy, and we have the ones that maybe they have been shaky over time. They will be the ones that they will take the brunt.
Well, we'll look at it. Let's look into the GDP within non-oil sector. Do you think economic growth figures for population growth, we're trying to see, what do you make of the latest numbers vis-a-vis population estimate?
Okay, well, when you look at that, it's not like quite, it's not that quite impressive for me personally. And when you look at the fact that our population has been growing significantly, we have from 1960 to 2022, our population has grown from like 45 million to 218 million, and that's like a 386% growth from that particular stage. And when you look at our GDP, can we relate our GDP growth to that? I'm not sure we can. It's not like we are not growing at that space. The fastest pace we had was in 2015, which was like a 4.5% growth in population. And when you compare it to GDP figures over time, you just realize that it's not really matching. So our GDP is not really growing at the pace that the population is growing, and which is one of the major reasons why we are having this kind of a strenuous and this kind of a harsh economic system in the country.
Interesting that oil is at the heart. Is the heartbeat of our economy, and that's no news to anyone. So, considering its importance, how would you describe the performance of the oil sector so far as we saw in the third quarter GDP, and what's your outlook?
Okay, so I am quite a bit I'm optimistic that we might see the first, let's say the first positive growth in that sector. We can still see a little bit of growth because it's contracted by 13.8% in the last quarter, and then in this quarter we can see that it was at 0.85% contraction, 13.43 rather. So when you look at that contraction, you realize that we are moving towards that positive territory over time. And what were the major drivers of this? When you look at the Q1, you can see that there was a clamp down on oil thefts, and we see improvement in that space. We had for Q1 2023, we had like 1.5% average production. And then when you look at Q2 2023, we can see it was around like 1.3, and then we now have like a 1.43 right now. Now, when you look at these figures, you just realize that although we are making improvement, but that improvement is not really key like that. The production is not really improving. We are just seeing this improvement in the fact that we are reducing oil theft and vandalism. And when you look at Q2, one of the major factors that caused the decline in Q2 was the fact that, there was leakages, there was like a stoppage in production, all those things. But Q3 was a bit better than that. When you look at that, you just see that we are moving towards that space. The removal of oil subsidy was like a big one, is a major factor that, saw the improvement. And also when you look at the devaluation of the Naira from the FX market system liberalization, that was one of the major reasons why we are also seeing this improvement in that oil space. So oil production is not really improving at the pace that we want it, but I still believe that we can do better, and I believe that we can see a positive close by Q4 2023.
Yeah, also let's talk about agriculture specifically. You look at the crop production, which was the top contributor on the chart, yet its own GDP performance being under 2% all year since January. What more do you think we need to do? The whole issue about the insurgency and all that seemed to have tapered off in the news, as it were. So the question is, are we back to the farm?
Well, the thing about it, even though the news, maybe we are not seeing news of insurgency, that fear is still on the people. Someone that got murdered on the farmland, maybe he has a parent murdered on that farmland, it's going to be very hard for them to go back to that, to convince them to go back to that farmland. That thing is something that we really need to look at. And also, when you look at the crop production, we still have a particular logistic issue in this country. You can see some states in Nigeria having close to 35% food inflation, and when you go to some states, they're having as low as 23% food inflation. When you look at that disparity, you understand the fact that the logistics of transporting food from one sector or from one region of the country to another part is a major issue. is something that we really need to look at, apart from the insecurity.
These are problems that have been with us for so long. So I'm just wondering, when are we going to fix it? What do we need to fix? You need to fix the roads.
The thing is, we can't fix it at one. We can't fix one and say, okay, let's go to the next one. If you fix insecurity,
yes,
and people are able to go back to the farmland and produce, what if they can't transport those food items or those farm products from one place to another? So we need to fix it. And if you fix the fact that, okay, logistics, what if insecurity comes around again and they start hijacking all those trains and things that, people that want to transport
at least we can fix roads. We can fix a couple of things. Again, food's cheap at the bottom of the pyramid, close to farms, right? Perhaps it's basically those of us in blue-collar folks in cities that seem to face the high price more than those at the base level. So we need, that is where the logistics and infrastructure around logistics need to be improved. But this is it. But let's look at our time and check into manufacturing, for example. That was a very paltry 0.8% growth as I'm looking at the numbers. And the food, beverage and tobacco was about 4.13%. So in the third quarter of this year, how important is it driving manufacture to Nigeria? If you look at manufacturing there, look at the numbers from a negative 1.91% in third quarter of last year. We seem to have walked our way up a little bit into second quarter and then 0.48% growth in the third quarter. So it looks like we are flipping in and out. We're still not yet on that upward strong trajectory.
Yeah, so when you look at the manufacturing sector, we have to look at policies in that space. The policies that have been implemented, the FX system that, they changed. When they changed that particular FX structure, we saw a lot of volatility in the FX market. It affects this particular industry a lot. And when you look at the PMI figures, you can see that the PMI figures were not really that strong or buoyant. As for October now, we are back at 49.1.
Yes, that's a contraction.
That's a contraction.
So the PMI reflects, the GDP showed up what the PMI was.
Yeah, it shows that particular speed. And, when you now look at it, you understand the fact that high cost of production, high cost of doing business is really eating up in that particular space. So those are things that we need to look at if we want to improve the activity.
We spent the last 8 years talking about ease of doing business. We have a business into the ease of doing business in the office of the presidency. We have a whole team working on that. How come we haven't seen that come to play?
Well, as I've stated before,
is there a missing link between policies and actions? Is there?
That's it. There's always a missing link because the way we implement policies in this country is quite, alarming.
We have a mountain load of policies on paper.
Yes, we
Nobody
do.
produces more policies than us. Than we do. I'm not too sure, but it's just subject to fact. We produce too much policies. I think we do have so much policies.
And there's this
so I don't know. What do you think we can do? Just give me. A Minister of Arts and Culture is seeking to grow that culture by $100 billion by the year 2030. What's your take?
Well, I think that part is something that we really need to look into. The part of arts and entertainment
and recreation.
We really need to that place because our artists, our people in that space, they are doing impressive. They are doing a very good work, and we've seen this kind of we've seen this kind
on their
of
own best
exposure.
Efforts. Hello?
On their own best efforts. No government is there and everything. And that's why, at times when they go out there, they have this kind of thing that it reflects in their music. They talk about how the government has been doing some things that are not really, really okay and favorable. And these guys have been able to stand on their own and do
bootstrap themselves.
So we need to look at that particular sector. Government needs to look at it and find a way of, just improving, engaging stakeholders in that place and looking for ways to just, work with them and boost it. But
Samson Owolabi, it's good to have you here. Perhaps we'll talk with you again before the end of the year. We thank you so much. And our best regards to everyone at Zedcrest. Well, thank you.